What's going on, everyone? So Los Angeles Lakers desperately need some type of trade or trades, right? The Lakers currently as constructed, they're not very likely winning a championship. Would they have a puncher's chance if you kind of just ran it back? Sure, right? I mean, we thought they had a puncher's chance this year. The cards kind of fall your way. Boom, you could be in the finals, who knows? But realistically, you're not going to look at this roster and go, "Oh man, they're a top, 5 roster in the league." Right? So the Lakers definitely need to do some big impact trades. Couple problems though. One, you're already seeing the kind of impact guys end up getting traded, such as a DeJounte Murray going to the New Orleans Pelicans, which makes another team in the West even better. Right? Now there are a lot of trades that the Lakers can pull off and make, but do any of those trades really raise the ceiling for the Lakers? Luckily, the DeJounte Murray trade may have made the market kind of balance out because you've been seeing all these crazy trades, like the Mikal Bridges trade, it's wow, how are the Lakers going to be able to trade for anything? Well, then you just saw DeJounte Murray go for basically half of what people thought he would go for. So maybe that kind of cools the market down a little bit. Something that I talked about is I didn't think the Mikal Bridges, I thought that trade was the Rudy Gobert trade in the sense of everyone understood it's not going to have an impact. That was an outlier deal, right? That was just circumstance rather than the norm, and they're crazy for doing so, right? That's kind of what that felt like to me. And again, I think the DeJounte Murray trade kind of brings everything back to reality, right? I think that kind of lets everything settle back in. But who's that trade out there that's really going to elevate and make that impact to where it's okay, this roster is now competing and contending, right? Cam Johnson and Dorian Finney-Smith would be great, but are they enough to really have an impact on this roster to where now we're oh man, the Lakers, they're one of the best teams? Probably not, right? You'd really have to kind of flush in and inject several talent. The free agency market is also a bit concerning because you have like Valanciunas would be great. Taking a shot on a Kevin Porter Jr. would be great, but those guys aren't going to elevate you now to championship status, right? Again, you're still in the same boat. Maybe you're a little better. JJ Redick's a better coach, right? Maybe, you're one of the better teams in the West, but you still are not looked at as that bona fide top team in the league. You're basically in the same position you're at, maybe slightly better, but everyone else has gotten better. Right? So that's where the real problem lies. And at least at the time of recording this video, maybe we have our answer in our decision. D'Lo hasn't made his decision, but it doesn't really matter for what I'm about to dive into because either way, everything kind of hinges on D'Angelo Russell, right? Now, even if D'Lo opts out, you could still bring him back on a new contract, right? And then the other alternative is if he leaves, you could, use your exception, your full mid-level exception, right? But even then, it's who are you going to get to replace that? Maybe you could get a, DeMar DeRozan. That would be great, right? That definitely is a piece that could upgrade over D'Lo. But realistically, you're probably not getting somebody that is going to be able to replace him. Luckily, the market for D'Lo is essentially non-existent. There's a couple teams that are kind of interested, but he's at the bottom of the totem pole compared to where they have these other teams. Orlando wants 7 other guys before D'Angelo Russell, right? So D'Lo's kind of an afterthought. The other problem too is, and I touched on this in another video, was that the Lakers could end up being in a position where they have no point guard. They have no point guard, right? Because if D'Lo walks, right? Who's your point guard? DeJounte Murray's off the table, right? Could you bring in a Chris Paul? Sure. Could you maybe use your mid-level exception to bring in a Tyus Jones? Sure. But that's not an upgrade. And you're still you still have all these other needs, right? It's so now what? Are you moving Gabe Vincent into the starting point guard position? I don't really like that. And then who's your backups? Wait, you going to run Jalen Hood-Schifino and Bronny James? Are you going to move LeBron back to the point guard? By the time he gets to the playoffs, he's probably gone. He's probably non-existent because probably either hurt or exhausted, right? And then also the whole idea is to move Bron off ball and have LeBron play off ball more, right? So it's just, you look at this and it's the Lakers could be having a bit of a disaster here. But, right, the other alternative, and you're kind of hearing murmurs of this, the Lakers kind of just run it back momentarily and then go to the trade deadline and make a move. So maybe you go and you give D'Lo like the JJ Redick rule, right? Which is funny because JJ Redick's the Lakers head coach, right? Where you basically give him an inflated contract for a year. You saw the Indiana Pacers do the same thing with Bruce Brown, and that's how they were able to get Pascal Siakam, right? To where, hey, D'Lo, we're going to give you like a 1 year, $30 million contract, right? Or 1 year, $35 million contract. And then we're going to trade you at the trade deadline, just to let you know. But you're going to get this huge bag, right? And we're going to be able to use that to maybe go get a star, right? Or go get a piece. Maybe Trae, like I've talked about Trae Young, right? Maybe Trae Young is the target. But maybe so that way you don't have to clear all your depth, maybe you just give D'Lo an inflated contract and give D'Lo, say, $35 million or something like that. So now you only need to clear another like $10 million in salary, right? And then also Atlanta gets to clear off a ton of cap space, and maybe you can work something like that out to where you're throwing in D'Lo and, I don't know, maybe like a Jalen Hood-Schifino and, a Gabe Vincent, right? And maybe they'd be more willing to take on Gabe Vincent because at that point he'd only have another year and a half on his contract. You basically clear all of Trae's salary off of your books. You're in good shape at that point, right? So that could be something that maybe the Lakers look to do, or if another star becomes available, right? Now you have D'Lo in this like inflated contract that could be a salary dump, so that way they don't have to take back a bunch of bad contracts. Just like, hey, we could just take D'Lo's contract, clear that off our books, and now we're golden, right? So there is that possibility that is a play and an option that the Lakers look to do, and that the Lakers, that may end up being the outcome. Because again, it's like we all want the Lakers to make a trade. I want the Lakers to make a trade. But Donovan Mitchell is probably a long shot. Now, there is talks, and look, there's word that the Cavs expect him to sign an extension, right? He hasn't done it yet. And it's very possible he doesn't. And then what? Right? There have been talks for months that he wants to go to a big market, and it's either the Knicks or the Lakers. Well, the Knicks just took themselves out of the equation, which would leave only the Lakers. So does he kind of force his way to the Lakers? It's a possibility, right? But realistically, he's probably not happening, right? And so then it's like, who else is left? Lauri Markkanen's probably not happening, right? Like Darius Garland maybe, but San Antonio is supposedly like, that's like their number one guy. Like that's the guy that they want. They could just outbid us. So Darius Garland's gone, right? It's just, you're in this rut where it's like, what do you do if you're the Lakers, right? Like Lakers might not have a choice but to run it back and hope that they're better and they can kind of ride the wave until they get into the trade deadline. But also you kind of want, especially in a first-year head coach, JJ Redick, you kind of want your roster to be set and ready so that way there's none of that like, oh, well, now I got to integrate all these guys in and stuff and have this whole roster turnover. You like to, whoever you end up getting, you get now. So now JJ has his guys. And if you do make a trade at the deadline, it's like a minor trade. You're just getting a piece or two, right? To where like the Lakers are already here. This guy became available that could slot in better at our 2 or add some better depth or give us some better size or, whatever. Kind of just get a little minor piece that can give you a slight upgrade, maybe put you in that conversation or maybe slightly ahead, right? Like that's the idea. But it's just the Lakers are it's kind of leaning towards, running it back, or that's a real possibility that no major trade happens until the trade deadline. That's even if a trade happens, right? It's just, and then you add in the Laker tax and you add in again, it's just, and for those that are like, oh, there's no Laker tax, look at what the return was for DeJounte Murray. The Lakers could have beaten that. And, the whole conversation was the Lakers had to trade Reeves. That's it. If you can't trade Austin Reeves, Lakers have other guys besides Austin Reeves that made sense for Atlanta. Nance, yeah, he's solid, but he's nothing to write home about, right? Rui would have been better. Dyson Daniels, don't get me wrong, is a good upside talent, legit two-way guy. That's the prize. You got some picks, and you got Dyson Daniels. Dyson Daniels is the prize. Larry Nance is probably just salary dump. That's a guy that they're probably not going to keep very long. Maybe they could look to trade him at some point, but more likely than not, it's Dyson Daniels and some picks. The Lakers could have, Lakers could have given up more picks, right? Gave up a pick swap or something, right? Like there's a lot of options there. But the kind of likelihood of Lakers potentially standing pat during this offseason, maybe bringing in just like a Valanciunas and something and then going in, it's looking a lot likely, right? And we'll see. Like I said, we'll see what D'Lo does. Again, he may have already made his decision by the time you're watching this video, so that's always a possibility. But even if he does opt out, I do think he opts in. I do. But even let's say he does opt out, right? The Lakers can always work something out after. So it's not like the end of the world if he opts out. But it would be nice if he sticks around and opts in, because then that just gives, now we can maybe start looking to make some moves. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion. Pass the question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? How do you feel? What are your thoughts? Are you okay if the Lakers kind of run it back and wait until the trade deadline? You know, maybe add a center, add a piece or two through free agency and see what they can do? Do you think, no, Lakers, no way, they're not going to be good enough? Again, if D'Lo walks, what about point? Even if D'Lo sticks around, it's like, if you trade him, you still need a point guard, right? So Lakers could be in a tough spot. But again, how do you feel? Whatever your thoughts are, let me know down in the comments below. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot as we enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe to the channel, hit that subscribe button, turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one. Thank you.